Twins win on opening day at Kansas City, 2-0. Pablo López makes his Twins debut and pitches great. We're going to take a look at some highlights from this one. We're going to take a look at some information from this one. Starting off with some of Pablo López on the mound. Again, he pitched tremendous for the Twins. Maybe not as deep into the game as some fans would have hoped, but we'll talk about why that was in just a moment here. But really kept the Royals off balance. Such a good fastball changeup guy. He was throwing his slider more often than I think he usually would have been last year. He's really kind of developing a feel for that, and good to see him and Christian Vasquez working really well together. Here's some baseball savant information. They have these cool visuals now. As you can see, 32 four-seam fastballs, 19 of those sweeper sliders. So actually his secondary pitch in this outing was that sweeper. So that's a huge X factor in Pablo López taking the next step. And I think that's kind of what we saw was next level Pablo López. If you're not as familiar with Pablo López, I think we're all kind of getting to know him a little bit. This was like as elite as he's kind of looked, because as you see here, this is from Baseball Savant as well. All the velocity's up, 1.5 miles up on the four-seamer, changeup, sinker, curveball, about the same. So everything's coming up. Again, that sweeper, the slider, is a new pitch for him. He's throwing that differently. And as you see kind of on the right there, Pablo López had 17 swinging strikes in this outing. He only bested that one time last year. So I think he'd matched 17 twice and had 18 once. So a very high swinging strike total. And as I'm recording this, some of the night games are still going, but tied with Garrett Cole for the most swinging strikes on the day for Pablo López. Now, this wasn't a super formidable Royal lineup. They're not going to be one of the more dangerous hitting teams in the league this year or anything. But I think it was a great start for Pablo, and it's a great show. Again, he threw more of that slider than his changeup, which is his signature kind of secondary pitch. So, if he can work that in and get more comfortable with that, he's going to look like a completely different pitcher. And this is a guy, there was already plenty to like about this guy. So potentially taking the next step here, Pablo López. Got kind of, the Twins, I think, got out of this jam. They were sort of let out of this jam by MJ Melendez, who had a bad plate appearance and then kind of lost track of what was going on here. This was a bases loaded situation with one out in the fifth, with Pablo kind of laboring. But credit to Gallo, who was playing first base there, for making a heads-up play. He was very decisive on that play. He was going to try to get that out at home. And then Vasquez makes a good return throw back to Gordon. You got to make the play. So that was kind of the big pivot point of this game for Pablo and the Twins. You see, it was 0-0 at the end of the fifth. And they did what they had to do, man. If a team lets you off the hook, you got to jump on them. And they did that. They'd scored the top half of the next inning, which we'll take a look at in a moment. But why did Pablo López, he threw 5 1/3 shutout innings, only gave up 2 hits, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. Why only 5 1/3 inning? Why only 85 pitches? Well, this is something I actually said yesterday, coming into today, expecting a lot of outcry about that. But Pablo only went 3 innings and 42 pitches in his last spring start. He hadn't been completely stretched out. He really hadn't been on like a super steady routine because of the WBC. He participated in the WBC, pitched well there, but that's going to kind of throw off your regular buildup that you were doing, any kind of planning, and it's both outside of the Twins' control and outside of Pablo López's control. How long is Venezuela was going to be in the you don't know any of these things. So somebody asked me, how far, what I thought the innings limit would be. I thought 90 was probably the max, and he threw 85 pitches in this opener. Taking a look at how the rest of the pitching staff went, very low stress from there. I mean, Caleb Thielbar, Jorge Lopez, Griffin Jacks, Yohan Duran got everything taken care of. Duran did allow a 1-out base runner in the 9th inning, but he's Duran. And we talked about this kind of in the bullpen preview, kind of two things. That number one, I really like the A side of this bullpen, and that's what the Thielbar, Lopez, Jacks, Duran. I feel very comfortable with these guys. And then number two, who's going to close? Well, that probably depends on what part of the lineup is coming up. And Duran went out there to face the middle of the Kansas City lineup in the 9th inning. And I think if the middle of the lineup would have come up, maybe in the 7th inning, we might have seen him there instead of Lopez. But and Thielbar kind of came in to face a couple of tough lefties. So that's they're going to play mix and match. They're going to sort of, just because Duran got the save today doesn't mean we're going to see him doing that every day. But we'll see him do that plenty too. They'll mix and match a little bit. As far as the run scoring, the Twins could have scored a lot more than 2 runs in this game, but pick this up again. This is right after that. Melendez kind of letting the Twins off the hook. Byron Buxton opens up the 6th with a triple, and Trevor Larnach drives him in here. We'll talk about the lineup a little bit. I thought Larnach hitting 4th, hitting cleanup today was kind of a show of confidence in him. Coming off a great spring, a good end of spring in particular. So that's how the Twins got on the board. And then Zach Greinke came out and they brought in a lefty. That allowed Rocco Baldelli to pinch hit both Kyle Farmer and Donovan Solano you're seeing here. Farmer drew a walk and Solano drove in the 2nd run of this game with this single. So, some of that depth already showing up. Some of the depth of the team, some of that kind of platoon advantage, some of the balance of the roster, because that was supposed to be Nick Gordon and Joey Gallo coming up in those spots. And here's a look at the batting order. I mentioned Larnach batting cleanup, and I think that was kind of a show of confidence. I think part of why this lineup was this way is because Joey Gallo has terrible numbers against Zach Greinke for his career. I thought it was a little weird that Kepler led off. He did go 0 for 5 with a strikeout, left a lot of guys on base. If you're asking me, I might have just sort of lopped him off the top and had him hit 9th, basically, or 8th, down toward the bottom, and just started with Correa. But that's really neither here nor there at this point. But again, Larnach hitting 4th. He did strike out in his first 2 at-bats. One of them was in a big runners in scoring position situation, but did come around, was 2 for 4 with a walk. So the rest of his plate appearances were very solid. Got that big run-scoring hit to drive in Buxton to break the ice, delivering him from 3rd. So that was really good to see Trevor Larnach. And then just the other thing, and this is obviously not showing the defensive alignment, but Jose Miranda playing 3rd base today. The shoulder is healthy enough. We barely saw him get into 3rd base during spring training, so it was really nice to see they were confident enough with him to start him there. So again, this was that sequence where, the Royals pull Greinke, bring in Amir Garrett. Oh, they got Nick Gordon and Joey Gallo coming up. Let's bring in a tough lefty. The Twins bench now is situated to where, we can bring in a couple guys that hit lefties really well. So went from potentially Gordon and Gallo to Farmer and Solano. And this was in the 6th inning of this game. That's certainly not the late innings. Maybe it feels a little bit earlier than you would usually want to start making these kind of moves. But obviously a big situation, and those guys give the Twins a lot better chance against a lefty in particular than Gordon and Gallo do. And it worked out. It worked out in this one. So great to see that. But this is kind of a new identity of this lineup, and it came up huge today for them. Again, the Twins could have scored more runs. It was a 2-0 game. Credit to the pitching staff. Again, this whole Royals team isn't very good, so it's not like some great victory today. It feels good to be off on the right foot. They're on the road to 162-0, baby. But certainly some runs left out there. The Twins were 4 for 11 with runners in scoring position, which is solid, very solid. But they left 12 men on base. 12 men left on base. The bases were left loaded multiple times. As you see here, they did hit the ball hard a lot. 8 of the top 10 hardest hit balls of the game were from the Twins. Carlos Correa had the top 2 exit velocities in this one. So, they were hitting the ball pretty well. There was a lot of other 95 plus. It's a hard hit ball is considered 95 plus exit velocity. But, in Kansas City, in that stadium in particular, in cold weather early, we're here in March still. This team's going to have to kind of scratch. They're going to have to put together runs like they did today. There are 2 runs. The ball's just not going to carry there, and it's not the easiest place to hit home runs anyway. Especially when the weather's not warm. So that's what we'll kind of look to continue as this series goes on. If you're newer to the channel, usually I do a system recap each night, and you don't see my face in those usually. So we're doing a little bit something different to kind of fill the time, especially with the one Twins game, the opening day game. It's a bit of a bigger thing to focus on too. So tomorrow the Twins are off, but the Saints are playing. So we'll be back here talking about the Saints game tomorrow. And then I mentioned this in a community post. The rest of the minor league affiliates don't get started until I think it's Thursday of next week. So that's when you can look forward. If you are someone who is returning from seasons past, wondering when the full system recaps will be coming back, that's when we'll be seeing those starting. So be on the lookout. Keep an eye out for all that stuff. Thank you so much for watching this video. So thankful for an opening day Twins win. Thank you to all of the members. Here are the premium members of the channel. Really appreciate the support. We'll talk again soon.